Hello and welcome to the Wiggly Sausage Farm. Today's video, the chicken feed conspiracy. In my feed for the last 3 weeks, I have been seeing videos speculating, that's right, speculating, about Producer's Pride chicken feed, sold primarily through the Tractor Supply, and it's affecting some individuals' chicken flocks. Let's dive into this conspiracy. It is still wintertime in the northern part of the United States. In my area, we are between a zone 3 to 4. Livestock and their production or breeding times, when affected by the onset or lack thereof of sunlight, should be monitored and planned just like plants. Look at your growing zone number. In my area, zone 3 to 4, I can generally expect harsh winters, heavy snowfall, and the length of my winter to basically skip the spring season, as it often feels like it does. Recently, we saw a cold snap in this unusually mild winter season that equated to a 2-day negative 41 degree Fahrenheit time period with wind chill. Without the wind chill, it was between negative 27 degrees Fahrenheit and negative 22 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, in my conditions, I generally plan on having to add eggs to my grocery shopping list anywhere from November, generally when we have gotten our first snow already, to April, as snow has just historically been on the ground up until the last week of May or even the first week of June. I don't blame the feed or create a conspiracy because I know that my growing conditions for my zone don't allow for my egg layer chickens to lay their eggs consistently through the season. It is simply unrealistic to expect any bird to lay when the shorter winter days, and in my growing zone's case, the harsher conditions. Now, I don't supplement with light in the winter. I like to let my girls go through their natural cycle of molting and resting for the upcoming laying season. What I do and plan for is watching the weather near when we expect our first snowfall, and if my chickens haven't replaced their feathers from their molt, I plan to send them off to freezer camp instead of risking them suffer in the frozen hell of our growing zone. Throughout the summer, I plan ahead, and much like seed saving, I save some of my surplus eggs through different methods to have a supply to supplemental eggs for my family during the winter months when the chickens are on egg vacation. I can tell you right now, these viral videos and flock owners speaking up about their conspiracy of Producer Pride feed from Tractor Supply intentionally limiting egg production is alarming to me. Every person who has jumped on this conspiracy wagon only seems to be perpetuating fear with rised inflation, egg shortages, and increased egg prices. If you are still here with me, I am in no way trying to perpetuate fear, but I am hoping to share my experience and opinion to new chicken flock owners and those who may believe that these conspiracies are true. Now, chickens require protein. I personally feed my egg layers a local feed to my area, which is at 18% protein. It is comparable in price to the Tractor Supply's offered Producer's Pride chicken feed. When the local feed was a little more expensive, I did flock to my local Tractor Supply store, and I did buy feed from there. And with that feed, the protein level is only at 16%. I again did not get eggs all the way from November to April due to the average sunlight afforded to my location. The feed did not inhibit egg laying production. It's possible it didn't aid in them magically going forth and laying eggs with that lower protein and lack of sunlight. But the environment and the age and breed of my layer hens did. It did inhibit their laying production during my winter months. Now, currently, I have a full replacement layer flock from farm-crossed chicks that I hatched out on the farm and new chicks that I raised from the summer and spring. They came into laying age about a month ago. The breeds I got were different from my smaller heritage Buff Orpington layers that I had for 3 years. These girls that I have now are commercial heritage crosses. For example, the black sexed lynx, the red sexed lynx, and my Buff Orpington Swedish flower crosses that hatched from the previous flock. Due to the age and breed of the new layers, I have been getting eggs as of January of this year. Now, this is extremely uncommon for me, and it hasn't happened to me personally in the last 3 years. This is the first year that we didn't need to buy a supplemental carton of eggs. I have had a few winters where my girls will stop laying later, like in the 3rd week of December, but never start up again in January and go strong like my current layers. I also know that this year we are doing a few things differently. We are doing free choice oyster shell instead of only putting it out once a week. We are also using a local feed, and here is the emphasis, with a higher protein percentage, which is 18%. With this feed and the producer's pride feed, the old Orpingtons would lay anywhere from every other day to every 3 days in their prime, not in the winter, but in their prime season for laying eggs. With the local feed, currently, my girls are laying every day or every other day, unless we have a really cloudy day, and usually then I get 1 egg. This year is also the first year of putting out free choice feed of 2 26-pound feeders in the coop, as we haven't had a bad rodent issue this year. We have previously, which made us limit the amount of feed being wasted and being put out. So before, we had to refill a 7-pound feeder twice a day, and when it was empty, whoever was late to the food party had to wait. My old Buff Orpingtons were the worst about where they would plop their eggs, and although we put out boxes for them, they would never use them. So we stopped putting out boxes because it was extra things to clean. And my new layer flock loves their nesting box. And when it needs a refresh, the 2 top hens have no problem complaining to HR. Because these hens are so young and my old flock was aging, it obviously shows that age does play a factor. This is something that has been proven time and time again. This is nothing new. This is no new news. I am already planning on doing 2 to 3 incubator and hatchings to be able to raise replacements for these girls, since they are laying in some of the harshest conditions possible, and that must take a toll. This is a part of flock raising, preparing you, your family, and your flock for your location. I know that southern areas don't have as hard of a winter as I may, but your summers are brutal compared to what ours are. The highest it gets in my area is 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And let me tell you, it freaks everyone out when it happens, and it rarely happens. Meanwhile, somewhere south, that might be an average Tuesday for you. But imagine putting the person who lives in the place that can be negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit without a wind chill. Yes, that's the lowest that I've experienced in my area. To a place that is 90 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. I will melt and not be very productive in that kind of heat. But another person who lives in that hot weather comes and tries to work a day in my negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and I can guarantee they won't be very productive either. So my point here is when it's cold, no matter what cold is defined as in your area, it makes living beings less productive, and it's important to keep that in mind. It even happens to the best laying chickens. So if you're buying, using, or concerned about Producer's Pride feed, please contact the company. No one can tell you the information better than they can. In my experience, Producer's Pride feed is just like any other feed. It has a 16% protein. You can check the ingredients on the label when you go into Tractor Supply if that's who you buy from. You can really make an educated decision there. If it doesn't end up working for your flock, find another alternative that will. You don't have to buy Producer's Pride chicken feed, but contact the company. It'll probably take the same time as spreading conspiracy or fear. And I bet you that a company that makes money from making chicken feed would never intentionally inhibit chicken egg production. That's not a good marketing strategy, and it's not a smart business move to make money. If you notice that your egg layers are not producing as much as they usually do, consider your growing zone. For sure. I don't think you need a reminder, but I will say it in case you in the back need to hear it. It is still winter. It is still very cold, and it's not summer yet. Livestock requires patience. Livestock requires cycles of rest. Winter is generally rest time. I personally call it my off season, even though it super is not. And I take it as a time to focus on all the other things I ignored in the summer and fall. Eggs are expensive. The avian flu hit our commercial producers hard, and the avian flu isn't over yet. So rest is really important for these layers that we have in our backyard farms or these hobby farms or any small farmer or small scale farming. The rest for our layers is really important because I have a feeling that they're going to have a lot of work ahead of them. If you want to try to find other things to improve egg production, consult a local feed store, a livestock nutritionist, a feed mill. Learn about supplementing light in your coop safely and weigh those pros and cons of doing so. Plan to have extra younger birds that are of a heavy egg-producing cross or breed. And ultimately, watch your birds. After you gain a lot of experience and you gain a lot of time and, feeling and just doing your daily chores, you will be able to look and see what is causing the decline of eggs in your flock. Put down your phone with the conspiracy videos and forums and worries and watch your flock. Test out what works for your flock. Because as much as anyone can say, even as much as I can say, well, I did this and it worked, or I tried this and it didn't work. What might work or not work for my flock, in my growing zone, and with my budget and time constraints may not help your flock or you or your budget and your time constraints. I didn't have a rodent problem this year, but if you are, well, leaving your feed out for free choice with 2 26-pound feeders might not help your flock. It might just attract more rodents and become more of a stress on your flock. So that way their egg production still goes down. That's just an example. And I hope it makes sense what I'm trying to say and the experience I'm trying to share here. But it just seems shameful to be creating conspiracies, especially in such a time of inflation and hard economic times and uncertainty, when it could just be management practices, or that it's February and the groundhog saw his shadow. Winter is here to stay. Stay warm and watch your flock and help their growth. Good luck, folks.